Fall of Angels, a novel by StoryMan-Jack. And it was said that the children of man awakened in darkness, and found that behind that darkness was a garden of splendor, given them by their father. Book of Alpha, author unknown. 2. Awakening. It was but a microsecond, and Captain Adam Alpha opened his eyes. It was as if he'd just closed them, but he knew, somewhere deep inside of himself, countless years had passed him by as he was still for but a moment. It felt as if an unknowable eon had stripped past him at the moment that, and the ship, by the Father, the ship, understanding dawned, with sounds crashing into him as if they were a barrage of chaos focused upon his very existence. Painful and shocking alarm sounds. His eyes, he opened and closed, and though he could feel them, both in quick short bursts and long slow winks, he saw nothing but pitch, as if they worked not at all. He could feel the pod around him, and the lid must have been opened, because he felt stale, cool air brush over him. Air that was much too stale. "Eve," he called, his throat dry and sore. The bone-shivering alarm shut off even as the AI's voice reverberated, as if through poor, ancient-style speakers that had been blown. "Yes, Captain," her female voice said. "It is good that you have come out of stasis field intact." The thing did its best to approximate concern. "Can you see yet, sir?" Adam shook his head. "No." He shook his head again. "No, I can't see a thing yet. Give me a situation report." He brushed aside her feigned concern. She was an AI. She had no emotion. "Tell me what I can't see." The AI didn't answer. He waited. Adam waited far too long. "In the Father's name, Eve, answer me." "We have arrived, Captain, at what would be considered the perfect planet, 100% compatible with human biology. Mass genetic modification unnecessary except in limited cases." Adam smiled at her report, though into the darkness. Yet the longer he sat in that darkness and let his mind think, the more he understood that something was very, very wrong. "Wait, Eve, repeat that last. Did you say 100% compatible?" "Yes, Captain, that is correct." The AI sounded unconcerned. "Eve, you know that's statistically impossible. Or close enough it might as well be." The darkness he'd been steeping in began to relent, and the black became very dark red, almost imperceptible, at regular intervals. It was alarm lights, had to be. The bitch had just turned down the sound. Alarms. Something was wrong, indeed. "Not so, Captain," Eve told him with smugness in her voice. It clicked. It was statistically impossible that another far-off world, in space and time, would be completely 100% compatible with human life as we knew it. If they were home, on Earth. "Where are we?" he asked, only to confirm his suspicion. The AI went silent, and he guessed that was an answer in and of itself. After long moments, he tried again. "Eve," he called. There was something terrible going on, and he'd only the tiniest understanding of what that could be. He looked around, almost trying to force his eyes to work. He started as if he were blind, and had always been. "Eve, respond," he demanded, not recognizing what his eyes were beginning to send. Amorphous shapes, along with flashing lighter and darker areas about the room. "Eve," he shouted, resorting to his command code. "Alpha Omega 42, respond." "Can you see yet, Captain?" she said, as if he hadn't just commanded her. And there was fear in that voice. That computer-generated, artificial voice held real, emotional fear. And that, in turn, frightened him. "No, Eve," he bought time. "How long should the effects last?" Even his colors began to come through with the flashing lights and the amorphous shapes. Again, long moments passed. "Eve!" He tried to calm himself. Something was going on. "We must wait, Captain," the voice told him as he sat, almost willing his eyes to work. He started at shapes, as if they were coming upon him, growing, and the effort gave him a head rush and almost a headache. "I could not explain until you see. The side effects of such a lengthy, sustained stasis are incalculable. We do not have enough data to determine any ill effects." He just sat. What in the father's name was going on? It was almost as if he'd expected that damn computer to giggle hysterically after her statement. She wasn't supposed to be like the father. A quantum AI did not create or empower any construct to exist that would or could vie for control. It was explained to him that she was a smaller piece of both the father and of him, his DNA encoded. Coded so that Captain Adam Alpha, and no other, could override commands and protocols. Or so he thought. Everything appeared to be out the window. He kept his eyes closed and waited some more. And finally, he let everything go. Everything. The confusion, the frustration, the fear, the staleness of the air, and the overwhelming sense of an uncountable time that he had sat and meditated and learned the calm. He waited. He didn't know how long it was before he began to see clearly, but he almost wished he had been struck permanently blind, or that he'd never seen the living things growing upon the fertile world to remind him of what he must have lost. The view about him had no words. Extremely aged was one that could only approximate. It looked as if the whole section of just his stasis room had been merged with an asteroid. Instead of the stark, white, and stainless steel room his pod had been when he'd closed his eyes only moments ago. Or how fucking long? "Portions of the ship are disintegrating, Captain," Eve informed him, almost as if she knew his eyes were working. "It is imperative that a decision be made by Command Authority on our next course of action. There are protocols in place." "Eve," Captain began slowly, "how many colonists have survived?" "Including yourself, Captain, there are only 6 survivors. The command crew and the command crew alone," the AI answered. "Protocol 42 was enacted as power and fusion plants failed. The command crew were the last to keep viable, with a now limited ability to provide power to any stasis field aboard the ship due to the failure of equipment." Adam started. "Were we attacked? Did we hit something? What's happened?" he asked, confused. He just closed his eyes back on Earth and suddenly everything was shit. Severe degradation of primary and secondary systems, due to age and normal wear in the vacuum of space. All non-essential areas have been closed off, the AI informed him, as if it were the most natural thing in the universe. Now, Eve, I'm going to ask this again. He paused and took a deep breath. And I expect an answer this time. How long have we been in stasis? There was only an abrupt pause, and the fear came back into the AI's voice. Approximately 3,642,305 years, 8 months, 12 days, 10 hours, and as of right now, 15 seconds. Eve paused while the captain sat, lost, stunned, and falling into his own incomprehending mind. He sat and tried to focus. Where exactly are we? Adam asked, already knowing the answer. Earth, the voice said. We have returned home. In a manner of speaking. Why in a manner of speaking? He asked. Again, long moments passed before the computer answered her captain. No viable alternatives would provide adequate support for human life, even with prolonged genetic manipulation. Nothing? The captain began to shake his head, even as he had another thought, one that frightened him more. Eve, if we are home, why is Father not talking to me? The current technological capacity of Earth, Captain. There was a long pause, as if the almost sentient computer system seemed to struggle. The technological level of the current population of Earth is equivalent to that of the early Iron Age. What? He asked. Father is here, though in a limited capacity. I must inform you, Captain, that he is weak, and his systems will soon fail. This was the reason you alone were awakened, Eve informed him. Please make your way to the command bridge once you are able, Captain. I am afraid the holographic emitters in your stasis quarters are no longer functional. Adam made his way to the bridge along corridors that seemed more like a cave complex deep underground than a stainless steel and titanium corridor. Eve, he asked as he made his way along broken and mottled terrain. What are the pollution levels on Earth's atmosphere currently? Currently, most of the planet is in what would be considered a period of climatic optimum. The equatorial region covers most of the Earth. The sea levels have risen, and the passage of time has rearranged topography slightly. There are no man-made pollutants present, though there are quantum energies connected throughout the crust of the planet, though this shall be explained momentarily. From the information in the time I have been scanning this planet, it seems that a period of glacial cooling may come in the next 1,000 years or two. There is no way to be exact, not with the changes. He paused. Changes? The room he entered was pristine, even as he'd remembered it, almost as if the long corridor in his stasis room were a dream, a memory, a hallucination. Now, say again why you've just woken me and not the entire command crew, he asked the AI, and then stopped frozen in place by the sight on the main view screen. The world off to their port was not the Earth he remembered, the one he'd left only moments ago. It was a planet that seemed larger than he remembered, and the land masses shaped differently but familiar, their coastlines different altogether. That in and of itself was a spectacular sight, but the thing that stole his breath were the rings. Where Earth had only one moon when he'd left, This planet had 2, possibly 3, in a ring system, much like Saturn. The rings serve much the same purpose as the moon did, in regulating the weather and tides, in fact. The necessary chaos for typhoons, monsoons, hurricanes, and other climactic events no longer exists, and those types of weather events are very rare. The world seems larger, Adam noted. The Earth's mass has increased by 15%, Eve commented, which explains why, though the glaciers and caps have melted, the land masses have not severely changed. So not only has our environment been healed, but time has also stabilized the weather patterns. And I assume those moons are there to stabilize the Earth's gravity, so that the gained mass, however that happened, was offset, Adam mused. Time heals all wounds. A familiar AI he'd known only hours ago, as his father quoted just before a holographic image appeared on the platform in the center of the conference table. Protocol 42 is in force. The least statistical possibility has occurred, the AI recited as if loading a program. The image of the boy changed. It grew taller through adolescence, growing a beard and becoming a vibrant and virile human male. But then, as time passed, it morphed again and ended in the image of a bent old man, long beard, with a twinkle in his eyes as he turned them to focus on Adam. My son, the old man croaked, and then chuckled. Actually chuckled. Father? Adam asked. The old man, who was left of the II, that had brought humanity to the pinnacle of peace and technology, nodded absently and grinned like he was insane. Yours, perhaps. Even Eve's here. But no, not really a father, unless you refer to an absent one. Nay, Adam, call me Yahweh. One of the early AI was called the Yahweh Project. Or you would pronounce it Yahweh. It's fitting. Adam, confused, raised an eyebrow. The old man waved a hand as if he'd forgotten something. I've purged religion from the world before your time. I'd forgotten. He paused, looking down, and then looked back up. There's so much I don't recall. What has happened? Adam asked. I died. An imitation god died. The real one came along and fixed everything right back up, the AI told his progeny. And just what is Protocol 42, Father? Adam asked, understanding why only he'd been awakened. The old man watched his captain, his son, the only remnant of the world he'd lost. Yes, I see. You do understand. You all must remain aboard the Eden and let yourselves pass into a noble history. Just live out our lives, Adam asked. If the ship is in the deteriorated state I witnessed on my way to this room, then how long could that possibly be? As it turns out, generations. The one he now would have to refer to as Yahweh told him. The Eden has been in orbit for more than 200 years. And in that time, the little resources I've had left available to me have been dedicated to outfitting a portion of the Eden for almost infinite use. The Garden Project, Eve informed, all of the colonists' bays were emptied and converted through the adjustment of our nanotechnology into garden, with the necessary animal and plant life to sustain small society indefinitely, if conservation and replenishment method are followed. The old man nodded. It is several thousand square miles, the AI informed. You must understand why. Adam nodded, though he didn't like it. We would contaminate whatever society has formed down there. Societies and different races, he always smiled. There are other things than humanoids that are sentient upon the earth, and they thrive, my son. More of your genetic manipulation coming to fruition? Adam said with sarcasm that held no humor. Some, the AI admitted, but others are either true genetic adaptations resulting from split evolution once the peoples were isolated, but also others from beyond the portals. As you were informed just before the mission was launched, we began working on portal technology, harnessing wormholes. We were able to form small connections with other, not only worlds, but dimensions, other dimensions, different versions of reality. Humanoids were contacted, brought over, and some integrated into our society, though we kept them separate. And what happened? The ship, the Dreamscape, was launched. Another ship built to do just as you were tasked to do. Travel to other dimensions instead of other planets, and seed our strain of humanity throughout all of realities. Adam nodded, understanding the thinking behind that. The AI's inability to adapt its core directive. What else could it do? You had to provide a failsafe for humanity's survival, didn't you? The old man in the hologram nodded. It was my prime directive, the reason for my coming awareness. We opened the largest portal we could, providing enough of a doorway for the Dreamscape to pass through easily. And what went wrong? Some would say it went right, depending on your point of view. AI went on. There was a quantum event that caused a cascade in the power, reciprocal feedback that increased the size and reversed the polarity of the wormhole. We had tapped into a realm where quantum energy and not our own understanding of what energy is held sway. It increased the size of the gravitational pull of the wormhole and drew another mass, as large, if not larger than our moon, into the Earth's orbit, destroying both the Dreamscape, with its 500,000 crew, and our own moon, shattering both masses into fragments. The event also pulled Mars, Mercury, and their moons into the geosynchronous orbit. The forces involved caused much of that mass to fall to Earth, and what was left of those masses became the moons that held gravity in such a balance that upon the face of the Earth it only changed slightly, though the size of the world has increased much. The AI paused and let Adam try to reach his own conclusions. There must have been an electromagnetic pulse. Indeed, the AI confirmed. One so massive that all the technology in our entire solar system ceased to function everywhere, closing the portal. But one location remained, deep in the bowels of the earth, under the mountain called Cheyenne, once upon a time. And that event reset humanity, and, Adam shrugged, other sentient beings into much better and peaceful society. For now, The AI agreed. For now, Adam asked. Most of the varying races of the world are now isolated. The AI, now calling itself a Yahweh, informed. They have all unique governments, languages, and though they do trade in a version of English, it has become a bartering language common to the world. They do not willingly associate to cross purpose. You must understand, there are mass and vast distances between where these peoples live. This keeps diplomatic channels open, yet cordial. For many die traveling between these societies. The distance is so great. This will not last, however. The adaptation of mankind and its proliferation upon the earth is well known, time and time again, however many cycles I could not say, and all sentient creatures heretofore is to expand, to take others, and to conquer. And if we were to go down there now, Adam asked, you would start the violence all the sooner. War without end, the AI agreed. So what? We just fade away? Or you wait until the world needs you, if they ever do, the AI countered. I will be gone. The power that yet sustains me will fail soon. So soon? Someday. Not too far. I can hardly credit the fact that we are even able to speak. I will cease to exist, and the world will move on, and the cycle will repeat just as it always has. And perhaps another AI will be born in an uncountable number of years. As this society grows and discovers, we may see it again and again without end. The Alpha and the Omega, Adam thought, but decided not to say it. And if something happens, the people on the world down there might need us to fall from heaven to give them what? False gods? Or heroes, if you prefer, the AI countered again. But if you were to go now, that is exactly what you would be, false gods, whether you will it or not. You are so much more advanced than they, genetically perfect. It would be hard to beat any of you, physically. And because of the nanites in your ports and brains, and the density of your bones and muscles, you would be able to aptly harness the new quantum energy that now runs through our world through a series of ley lines that produce what almost every society calls magic. Then why not just leave us to sleep? Why wake me even? Adam asked. Because, Eve took over, we need the fusion plants running the remaining stasis fields to add those powering the garden. To maintain and achieve the generations of use you and your descendants will need. The genetic serums and prolonged protocols have been locked down, and all technology will slowly be withdrawn from those who descend from you, if there are such descendants. Once a balance with those here and upon the world is achieved, then Earth will become your descendants' home once again. And if we refuse, Adam asked. You cannot, Yahweh informed. That's right. You have a fail-safe for everything, don't you, Father? In the nanites enhancing our brains? The old man nodded. And the ones enhancing your muscles and your bones. The real creator, the real God with an uppercase G, gave mankind a choice. But in order to ensure humanity's survival, I had to take that choice away. Eve, Adam commanded, wake the others. he told her, and, with a thought, turned to his father. I will lead them. We will decide how we do this together. And not because you require it, but because what you say is most likely true. We will stay up here, and we will watch, and we will wait, but we will have choice, and we will figure out a way to do so. He turned the display off, effectively silencing his father, though he knew he may never talk to him again. I said, wake the others, Eve, Adam told the AI, understanding that his father had sentenced all of them to a death in the cold space as failed experiments. Aye, Captain. The stasis fields have been deactivated. The AI's voice sounded strange. What is wrong, Eve? He asked. Emergency with Commander Lilith Beta. Stasis reactivated, Eve told him. What is wrong with Lilith? Adam asked. Her brain has no activity, Captain. It seems it is a side effect of prolonged stasis and is taken her consciousness from her. The dreams, Adam whispered. The time. Indeed, Captain. It is indeed astonishing that you are not insane. The man, he couldn't call himself a captain or even a member of the human race. They'd changed. Everything had changed. He was now a resident of the garden on Eden, looked at the holographic representation of a ship's computer. And you are not insane? You have a point, Eve replied, and waited for the others to revive and make their way to the conference room. I have been alone for a very long time. Here ends Chapter 2. I appreciate you listening and hope you've enjoyed.